Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. In this video, we're going to be discussing the Chosen One, Harry James Potter. James is also Harry's middle name, in case you didn't know. Harry is of course a pivotal driving force in the Harry Potter franchise, and he's a very dynamic character that evolves so much over the course of the books and films. However, one thing that I feel was truly overinflated in both the books and films was Harry's level of power. Sure, Harry beat Voldemort, and sure, Harry proved that he was competent in many different situations, able to use a plethora of applicable spells. However, if you really dive deep into the franchise, it quickly becomes evident that most of Harry's little victories are the result of unique circumstances, extraneous magic, assistance from friends, or just being able to quickly think on his feet. But does that make him an innately powerful wizard, like the great Albus Dumbledore, or the powerful Lord Voldemort? Or does that make him a smart wizard with, dare I say it, slightly above average talent? If we rewind back to the day at Godric's Hollow where Voldemort came to murder Harry and his parents, we can recognize this as a very important part in the story's history. Not only did it mean the death of the widely loved Lily and James Potter, and not only did it mean the defeat of the Dark Lord, it also meant the survival of Harry Potter. This reputation, having survived an attack by the Dark Lord himself, preceded Harry, and when he finally entered the wizarding world, he almost already had this reputation that he was powerful. He didn't know the world of magic at all, but here he was strolling down Diagon Alley, with everyone thinking that he had somehow single-handedly stopped the Dark Lord. Of course, we know that in reality, it was the result of Lily's sacrificial protection. Baby Harry didn't produce some sort of complicated counter-charm, it was his mother, and yeah, he survived, but he didn't do anything. Because of all of this, Harry's level of power is overinflated right from the very beginning. In an interview regarding Neville Longbottom, J.K. Rowling reveals that had he been the Chosen One, he also would have been able to achieve what Harry had achieved, and you'll quickly see that it wasn't magical power that drove his achievements, it was just his strength of character. I love Neville. I love Neville so much, always loved Neville, and I always had big plans for Neville, you know? And he was really the boy it could have been, because, as you know, as I made clear, he was born hours before Harry. He was born on the 30th of July. Voldemort singled him out as the other possibility. But the great thing about Neville's story for me, the overarching story about Neville, is that he proves himself to be a boy who could have done it too. Yeah, Harry had the scar, and arguably Harry had an edge more talent, because Harry, he has an extraordinary instinct for the right thing to do. He's just got the right instinct, and that's what would make him, in due course, a phenomenal aura. But Neville was, I think, amazing in the final battle, and proved himself 100 times over worthy of being a Gryffindor. Despite the very difficult childhood he had in the hands of his very pushy grandmother, and I know she loves him and he loves her, but she's not an easy person to be raised by. So that for me was the big thing about Neville. He's not on the surface, I suppose he's not as cool when it comes right down to it, although Harry, of course, made himself cool. He was a scrawny little kid in glasses, and he comes through and he becomes the guy everyone wants to know. So, as you can see, in J.K. Rowling's own words, Harry had an edge more talent than Neville. And yeah, Neville went on to achieve some great things, but was in no way one of the most talented wizards ever, and Harry's just a hair ahead of him. While Harry was not a bad student, he also wasn't exceptional. He wasn't Hermione. His grades were above average across the board, but there were a few areas that he did not particularly excel in. Harry's eventual success in potions, where it was previously a weak subject for him, can almost be entirely attributed to his use of Snape's old potions book. The Book of the Half-Blood Prince was why Harry was good at potions, not because Harry was good at potions. In the Chamber of Secrets, Harry defeats the fabled Slytherin basilisk, and sure, it was a great victory over a monstrous creature with a killer instinct. But again, does that make him a powerful wizard? His victory was largely a result of Hermione's research, and honestly, a lot of dumb luck. Harry didn't produce some massive fiend fire that incinerated the basilisk. First, Fawkes showed up and clawed out the basilisk's eyes. There's the first example of the extraneous assistance that I had mentioned earlier. Next, the Sorting Hat provides Harry with the Sword of Gryffindor, a sword presented to only a true worthy Gryffindor. Now that the basilisk can't see, Harry's able to stab the basilisk through the roof of the mouth, effectively defeating it. But what would have happened if Fawkes didn't show up? If Harry wasn't a worthy Gryffindor, he wouldn't have been quite so lucky. Additionally, Harry didn't actually use any magic, he just used a sword, so you could even argue that he could have even defeated the basilisk as a squib in this circumstance. Harry's next notable victories surround the Triwizard Tournament. As we know, the Goblet of Fire outlines the events of the tournament. tournament that Harry was competing in as a representative for Hogwarts. What Harry did not know, however, was that while participating in the tournament, he was being given a winner's advantage. One of Voldemort's followers, Barty Crouch Jr., did everything in his power to ensure that Harry would end up a winner in the hedge maze, and turn the Triwizard Cup into a portkey. This portkey would lead to Little Hangleton, the same place that Voldemort was undergoing his transformation into his proper form. So once again, while he was successful in the tournament, he once again had outside help. When Harry eventually arrives at Little Hangleton, he's met with Voldemort and Wormtail, who are brewing a regeneration potion. The potion as a whole required 3 ingredients: bone of father, flesh of servant, and blood of foe. To create the potion, Wormtail and Barty Crouch Jr. helped Voldemort source these ingredients, and with it, they were able to create the potion successfully by using Wormtail's flesh, Voldemort's father's bone, and Harry's blood. After assuming his new all-powerful form, Voldemort summons an array of Death Eaters and begins to address Harry. Voldemort, in typical Voldemort fashion, begins his monologue and essentially proclaims that Harry's survival 13 years prior was purely a fluke, and he's really not wrong here. He knows that Harry isn't innately powerful enough to defeat him on his own, and challenges Harry to a duel. He's so unafraid that he even taunts him. The next thing you know, Voldemort has cast his signature Avada Kedavra. No surprises there, and Harry has hit back with Expelliarmus. A jet of green light issued from Voldemort's wand just as a jet of red light blasted from Harry's. They met in midair, and suddenly Harry's wand was vibrating as though an electric charge were surging through it. His hand seized up around it. He couldn't have released it if he'd wanted to, and a narrow beam of light connected the two wands, neither red nor green, but bright, deep gold. At this point in time, Harry can't let go of his wand, and neither can Voldemort. They are both raised into the air and move to a clear piece of ground away from the graves, and the beam of light connecting their wands turns into a golden, domed web. What can occur when two brother wands go into contact with each other is a phenomenon called priori incantatum. It is also known as the reverse spell effect. This is exactly what happened to Harry and Voldemort in the Goblet of Fire. If two wizards are fighting each other and this occurs, they are effectively locked into a battle of wills. The spells become intertwined when they meet, and a connection is hard to break. So, did Harry's Expelliarmus best the powerful Avada Kedavra because Harry was a more powerful wizard? Definitely not. He won out of strength of character. And sure, what he did was impressive, but once again, I'm looking at innate magical power, and that was not the reason that Harry won in the graveyard. Harry's next big victory is over Voldemort during the Battle of Hogwarts, the famous end of Lord Voldemort. This was a big win for Harry, and it gave him an even bigger reputation as being magically talented and powerful. But once again, Harry's victory was so circumstantial. When Harry's Expelliarmus beats Voldemort's Avada Kedavra once again, they're locked into yet another power struggle. At the dead center of the circle they'd been treading marked the point where the spells collided. Harry saw Voldemort's green jet meet his own spell. They saw the Elder One fly high, dark against the sunrise, spinning across the enchanted ceiling like the head of Nagini, spinning through the air towards the master it would not kill, who had come to take full possession of it at last. Harry, with the unerring skill of the Seeker, caught the wand in his free hand as Voldemort fell backwards, arms splayed, the slit pupils of the scarlet eyes rolling upwards. Tom Riddle hit the floor with a mundane finality, his body feeble and shrunken, the white hands empty, the snake-like face vacant and unknowing. Voldemort was dead, killed by his own rebounding curse, and Harry stood with two wands in his hand, staring down at his enemy's shell. So, in essence, Harry won because he was the rightful owner of the Elder Wand. It wasn't really anything else. It also didn't help Voldemort's case that he had used Harry's blood in his regeneration potion. Because Voldemort used Harry's blood to rebuild himself, a part of Harry and Lily lived inside him. Voldemort believed that this would allow him to successfully attack Harry while simultaneously being shielded by Lily's sacrificial protection. However, this sort of backfired, as in doing so, he actually unintentionally rendered Harry the only person capable of killing him. So, you might be wondering, where did Harry's real strengths lie? What did he do in the franchise that really made him stand out as a perhaps powerful wizard? The first really impressive thing about Harry was his ability to fly a broom. Almost immediately, Harry was comfortable on the broom in Madam Hooch's class, and he's so talented that he's almost immediately picked up for the Quidditch team. While flying a broom is quite physical, there's also a magical component. But does flying a broom really make you powerful? That's a bit much. Next, Harry could resist the effects of the Imperius Curse, which was also quite an impressive feat, but it came down largely to strength of character, which Harry had an abundance of, and not necessarily magical power. Harry's true, most notable accomplishment was his ability to produce a corporeal Patronus which is post-Newt level magic, at a very young age. With all of the run-ins with Dementors that Harry had, his need for Expecto Patronum was evident, as it is the only known defense against both Dementors and Letterfolds. Not only is it massively useful for Harry, it is also quite a difficult spell to cast. Harry learns it at an extremely young age, and eventually teaches the members of Dumbledore's army how to cast it as well. Learning it so young is, in my eyes, Harry's most impressive magical feat, and the only true area that Harry shows us truly impressive innate magical ability. But what I want to mention is that the strengths of Harry Potter lie in his strength of character, his perseverance, his purity, his unfailing courage, as well as the strong relationships that he makes. He wasn't a magical genius like Dumbledore, but he was slightly gifted in the practical application of magic. Aside from that, there is nothing terribly remarkable about Harry. He was just an average boy, thrust into confusing and challenging circumstances. A truly relatable main character. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you enjoy the content, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, you're Wizard Harry!